The city, which was adopted by Toronto City Council, even by the provincial government, will build 124 kilometers on basically trains, LRTs as they're called. But they'd be European-style trains, you know, very slick, looking comfortable, and so forth. Take, for example, the Eglinton line. The plan was to take the Kennedy subway station in Scarborough, and then have it as a train going to the Don Valley, Laird Drive, and then it goes underground, with stations, of course, every once in a while, and then continues underground till Keele, and then comes out above ground all the way to the airport. The choice was, how do you build it? If you build, some people say build a subway. You know, that's nice. However, you know, costly. Yeah, you know, for every 1 kilometer of subway, you can build 10 kilometers of these trains. And if we say we don't have money, you know, for streetcars, basically LRTs on their own right away, how can we have money for subway? It's an illusion, it's a mirage, you know. So that's why there's going to be basically trains, you know, LRTs. However, the provincial government 2 months ago, unfortunately, took away $4 billion from that plan. So instead of that Eglinton line going from Scarborough all the way to the airport, it's going to stop at Jane, which is a problem.
People have to walk to airport.
Well, that's right. Well, walk to the airport. Exactly, which doesn't make any sense, right? You're right. So as mayor, I want to fight to make sure that that happens. And, you know, it costs us more money as a society not to build these things than to build them. For example, the OECD, you know, we did a calculation that Toronto loses every year $5 billion a year in productivity due to congestion. $5 billion a year. So we cannot afford not to do anything, because otherwise we're going to deteriorate as a city, economically as well as, you know, environmentally in terms of quality of life. And so in my opinion, the issue of toll roads is interesting. You know, the city cannot do it alone. It has to be, because the Toronto region is one region. You know, Toronto, Mississauga, York region, Richmond Hill, you know, Oshawa, Oakville, they're all really one organism. So you can't have one part do something and the other, if the others don't, because if you do that, then you're going to lose the advantage. For example, if you put in a $10 tolls every day, like, you know, Sarah Thompson suggested on the Don Valley Parkway, that means the cost of working downtown is going to go up $10 every day.
So it's too much.
You know, it's too much. That means a lot of companies are not going to be locating there, you know, which is bad for Toronto, and you encourage urban sprawl. That's bad. So therefore, I don't support toll roads on that basis. Possibly, they could be in a regional basis. That means nobody gets a disadvantage. But that's for the provincial government to do. The city of Toronto is only half the region, so we don't have the authority to do that. And there should be a lot of conversations before that even gets put in.
Joe, do you have any plan for the generating revenue for town rather than yes. increasing the sure. taxes for the homes or the bill? I mean that commercial.
I'm a city builder. Being a city, you know, I believe that in order to get a fantastic Toronto, we must invest in the city. Because the city is getting bigger and bigger, your arteries have to get bigger and bigger. Those people telling you, save the pennies, don't get it. You know, they're really sacrificing the future of a city. One other way of being a city builder, you know, Joe Pantellone, is do the things that I've been doing. For example, the BMO Field, that exhibition place. That's interesting. Because, yes, the government's putting some money, and we own the stadium. But Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the same people who run the Toronto FC and the Maple Leafs and the Raptors, they put in $18 million towards that stadium, okay? Yes. And they manage, but they have to bring, so, and this is one example, for example, where we took city land, you know, which didn't cost us anything, and we got to keep the ownership. Secondly, we got construction jobs out of it. You know, thirdly, we get now property taxes from it. You know, also the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment makes money from it, their company, and the soccer fans love it all, you know. So it's a win-win situation where we generated more wealth. Another example of that is the Pinewood Film Studios on the Toronto waterfront. Because what we found out in Toronto is that, as you know, we've been called Hollywood North in terms of film production, which is great, creates a lot of jobs and brings us a lot of good exposure. But we took the land, we went to the private sector and said, hey, could you build there? And by the way, you have to pay it for yourself. So the private sector built film studios there at their expense, not the city expenses. Yes. Now they manage it, and now it's a win-win again situation. The city of Toronto, you know, gets property taxes from there. Secondly, the private sector makes money from it. even because they invested in it. And thirdly, we have created now a situation where blockbuster movies can be made in Toronto. Before you couldn't do that because we didn't have stages big enough. So Pinewood Film Studios, for example, which manages that area, is the English company that did the James Bond series. So they know what they're doing. So that's another example. There's plenty of examples. I think that's what the city's got to go into this private sector, public sector, community partnership by using land that we have in order to generate revenue and economic activity.
Yeah, but there is a lot of restriction on the city lands. I mean that the city doesn't allow, that doesn't optimize the lands. So I mean that you cannot give the permission to make high-rise at the same land. You can make, for instance, $1 million for the revenue rather than 100,000 for a few one. And at the same time, people are moving out of the Toronto, and the town is making bigger. So what do you think?
Well, the city has a plan to accommodate 1 million more people in the next 20 years inside Toronto. And by the way, Toronto presently has got 100 construction cranes. There's 100 construction sites which have those cranes. No other city in North America has that. So actually, a lot of them are downtown, all the condominiums and so forth, because there's a recession. My plan is to continue encouraging that, because construction is good. And by the way, for the last 2 years, we've frozen the development charges, for the developers to encourage them to build some more, because we know the economy is fragile. My plan is to really continue to encourage that and maybe make City Hall a little bit less bureaucratic, because I think people should be able to get their permits faster than they do now as a way of helping.
I have no doubt that you have access, people have access to you, because I remember that you are still on Saturday on the in front of that hallway of the CRF 1010, yes?
It's Chin Radio.
Chin Radio, that you sit and the people, the client from the riding coming and talk to you directly.
Well, I think I'm like everybody else. No better, no worse than anybody else. So I treat people with respect. That's first and foremost. And I want to treat them the way I want to be treated myself. That's what I've done all my political career. On a Saturday morning for 2 hours, be in an office, and people can make an appointment if they want to, or if they want to take their chances and see me, they can. Because a lot of people, especially people from ethnic communities, have a hard time making appointments. They rather check to see if you're in there. If you're in there, they come and see you. I'm very accessible like that, and that's the way I want to be as mayor.
So you are Social Democrat?
I am a social democrat, which means I believe in the private sector, but I also believe that government has a role in laying the foundation for all of us to be able to live, work here well. And that's why Toronto's always been social democratic in its approach.
So you, as a social democrat, and Rob Ford as a conservative pro-capitalist, has connected very well to the grassroots. So what is different to our Iranian community by your vote?
Well, I think the Iranian community knows that I am an immigrant, like most people in the community, not everybody. I love the city because you know what? I know what other cities are like, and I know we have something special here. And I want to protect Toronto, first of all, as well as improve it. And having experience is very, very important. There's nobody else has the same experience as I do. And I'll give you one commitment that I'll work very hard as I always have and do my best and make sure Toronto is a great city for all of us. And it'll be breaking a new glass ceiling, if you will, because I'll be the first mayor in Toronto's history who didn't speak English as a child. In a way, it will make it easier perhaps for somebody who's watching us to become mayor in the future when Joe Pantellone becomes mayor of Toronto.
Yeah, and today's newspaper was that George Spitterman was admitting that he's not well connected to the people. So, but he is a fair front runner right now.
Right.
So you think that is going to change? And
it's definitely changing because you know what? There's still 4 months to go before Election Day on October 25th. And there's lots of time. And people tell me, see, my support is increasing all the time. Because as more and more people know me, they support me. There's both Smitherman and Ford that go up and down like yo-yos, if you will. And they have a lot of problems. For example, Mr. Ford doesn't get along with anybody at City Council. We had a decision a couple of weeks ago about the Scarborough Rapid Transit line. The vote was 38-1. 38 was in favor, 1 against. Guess who was the one against? Rob Ford. Mr. Smitherman has a record at Queen's Park, for example. He was Minister of Health. And they
$1 billion mismanagement. Yeah.
He spent $1 billion and there's not much to show for it. You know, if you want somebody to run City Hall, you don't do that. You know, these are taxpayers' money and we have to be respectful. So I think of all the candidates, I have the most experience, and you know, I work very hard. As a, you know, all immigrants work harder, as you know, to get anywhere.
Of course, because we have to work double of the.
Well, you know.
But we are learning and we are going through.
But that's what you know, and that's what I am, and I love the city, and I think we can make it a fantastic city.
So what do you expect from the Iranian Canadian community?
Well, I hope that the Iranian Canadian community goes to my website. It's mayor.
What is, please tell?
It's mayorjoe.ca, very simple. And you look at, you know, what I've done, you know, check my record, give us a phone call, and then you'll know. But please vote, because you know what, the vote is very special. Oh, another thing that I think we should do as a city hall is allow permanent residents to vote.
But that is not fair, because so many people are not citizens, but they are contributing to the city, but they cannot vote.
They pay taxes, you know, they send the kids to school here, they work hard here, you know, and they are not allowed to vote. That, in my opinion, is wrong.
They stay in the traffic.
That's right, they do, yeah. There's 200,000.
They waste the time, the life.
Like everybody else.
Yes.
And I think they have a right to have a say. You know, in the Netherlands, for example, they allow permanent residents to vote. There's 200,000 people who live in Toronto who plan to become Canadian citizens. But, you know, you have to have 3 years, then you have to apply. It takes 4 or 5 years. I think they should have a right to say that. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be fighting for as mayor of the city of Toronto. That's a Joe Pantellone commitment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pantellone, for your time and being here. آقای جو پنتلونی نماینده منطقه خیابون کالج و بترس ایریا هستن. ایشون 29 ساله که نماینده عضو انجمن شهرن، از اونجا سوسیال دموکراتن و در حال سابقه بسیار خوبی توی زمینه شهرداری دارن. کسایی که میخوان میتونن با دفترشون تماس بگیرن، یا همونجوری که ایشون گفتن www.joemayor.ca. البته این روزایی هم که جام جهانی هست، یه دونه اسکیجوال داره جام جهانی فوتبال که میره اونجا فوتبالا رو نگاه میکنه. شما میتونید برید تو اونجا لیستش رو ببینید، هر جا جو رفتش اونجا. چند روز پیش توی دیپلماتیک بود، فردا توی یورکویل توی دونه رستورانه و بازی فوتبال دعا کنید ایتالیا بره بالا. جو پنتلونی اونجا خواهد بود و فوتبال نگاه میکنه. در حال نظراتتون، آیدیاتون رو لطفاً برای ما بفرستین و ما حتما در برنامه بعدیمون باز هم مهمون برنامه‌مون خواهد بود. Thank you so much. We hope that we have you another time before the election, and we would like you to be mayor too. So if you have any word, please share with us. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you so
and
much.
And keep up the great work maintaining the culture in the Iranian community, because that's good not only for the Iranian Canadian community, is very important for all Canadians, I think.
Sure.
Because you know what, we all get to enjoy it and necessary, because the culture is the essence of a people. And when you keep the culture through programs such as yours, we make sure that essence is not only for the community but for everybody else as well. And I want to say thank you for the great job that you do.
Thank you so much, because when we see you as a role model, not you, I mean the Joe Pantellone, we see that there is a chance in Canada, in Toronto, for so many immigrants to pass the barriers, to overcome the barriers, and to be on top of the lines, top of the politician, making decision. And that's why Joe Pantellone is one of the good sample. If we work hard, we can get to so many places that it was not imaginable 30 years ago.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Joe, for your effort.
Thank you. Keep well.